reading I've done on it. But let me ask you guys a question from like more of a pragmatic point of view. So what? Convince me to be intrigued. What does it matter if there's life on Mars or if there's life anywhere if we're never going to really interact with it in any substantial way?
Yeah, I think, I'd definitely like to spin this question back on you two. It's a very, very important question. But I think, as maybe a development of our civilization and our society, we're all intellectually curious. We want to know an answer, and we want to be able to grow. So I think deciding whether there was, other life will help not only our growth and our studies of this very complex subject, but I think it could support future technological gains. And all, if we do somehow move to another planet, we could potentially have, culprits for this expansion. But I'd definitely be up to hear what you guys think.
So I also think it's a very interesting question as well, based only because if we're able to find life on other planets, we then are able to see that extraterrestrial life maybe might be like plentiful, and that will enable us to gauge about what we do in the future, such as what is the chance that we're able to go to galactic expansion? As in, are we going to become a civilization that is able to colonize our solar system, our galaxy, maybe even farther? And if we find that there was a lot of life in the past, but they never got to a certain type of point, or there isn't any life at all, that does pose a question of what is going wrong or what has happened to make us almost a miracle, or are we getting to a point where we get to this large hurdle that we can't go past? And this is a more philosophical topic, but I kind of want to ask this to you guys. It's the topic of the great filter, which is pretty much saying that throughout any type of life, microorganisms to multicellular life to complex systems such as ourselves, there's hurdles all of these organisms have to go through to reach the next level. And the great filter pretty much asks, is there a specific type of hurdle, say solar expansion or galactic expansion, to where that type of species becomes extinct and can no longer gain growth? So what are you guys' opinions on the topic, or do you have a specific opinion based on like where do you think we're going to be going towards the future as our just our civilization in general?
Charles, you want to start off?
I didn't want to say anything because I'm by far probably the most pessimistic of the three of us in this podcast. To be completely honest with you, I honestly don't think we're going to ever get off of Earth, because I think we're going to blow it up before we get close to it. Like, I'm sorry, but I just look at climate change, and I look at the way that we interact with each other, and I just don't think it's really possible for us to overcome our own petty squabbles, interspecies squabbles, to actually band together and make it past our own solar system. Well, I mean, that's not a very interesting answer because it's very depressing.
Yeah, but I think, going off, kind of the question that Matt posed is that there's many different stages that life has to go through, kind of like, hurdles they have to jump and so forth. And I think that, we may be very fortunate and might be the only species that actually developed and evolved so far to the point where we can, think about our own thoughts, to the point where we have a higher intelligence level that we can start thinking about things like this. But there could potentially still be, some sort of like single cell organism out there, as we've discovered on, like I mentioned before, in different parts of Earth. So that's kind of where I sit. But, Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Mikey's thoughts are completely valid. I mean, the trajectories for climate change right now pretty much leaves our civilization in question around 2050, 2100. So I mean, I think this is a bump in the road, so to speak, right now. If we're able to get past it, it's cruise sailing, I think. But If not, then we're going to crash the car we're in, and we're pretty much just going to go downhill from there. Going back to your point, though, Nick, about archaea and like cells that live in extreme conditions, I think that's a great sign for extraterrestrial life. I think in terms of thinking of aliens stereotypically, we, just as humans in general, we look at our own biology, say carbon-based systems, and the things that we have seen throughout life. But I kind of want to give you this question to you. What if we're looking at more biased question, as in we're looking for extraterrestrial life that shows the same biomarkers as us? But what if extraterrestrial life is made up of different types of molecules, such as like silicon is very similar to carbon. So what if they're like a silicon-based life form out there and stuff like that? A really interesting fact before we go into this discussion is that there is two types of archaea I want to talk about. One is a type of archaea that lives in nuclear reactors, and they're able to get their energy from detoxifying radioactive mercury, which is super interesting. And then another one, they live in volcanoes, and they eat inorganic chemicals, such as examples of these are like salt, cyanide, or ammonia. So it's very not intuitive types of means of living. So I mean, like, I think we should maybe be looking in that type of life.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I'm no scientist, so this is not my expertise, my field that I feel comfortable in, but I can say that, as we develop new technology, and I do think the reason why we're going back to Mars after 50 years is to do new experience with a different mindset. Like you said, to look for different different portions of Mars that could be inhabited or could have been inhabited by life. So we're trying to look at space and exploration and signs of life in different light, and I think we've made serious progress on how we look at things like this. But maybe we just don't have the technology to detect a silicon-based life form. Like you said, we might think about it and understand that this is a possibility, but we're just not sure how to go about that. So we have a lot of things to improve on. But like CHALLIS said, there's a lot of roadblocks ahead of us that could keep us from getting there. So we have the goal in sight. We're not sure of the road to take.